When Stargate returns, will we get a conclusion to the SGU? Well, I think we will, but it might not be the way we hoped. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. When Brad Wright first started talking about bringing Stargate back and his deal with MGM to write a pilot script, he, on more than one occasion, mentioned that he'd really like to see a conclusion to the Stargate universe story. He wanted to save Eli and Rush and Young and bring the entire crew home. But time has moved on. The story has moved on. We still don't have any official word on what Amazon plan to do with Stargate. But if you are a regular SciTrekker, you'll know that the rumour mill has continued and that I've been talking to lots of people that work in and around Amazon and MGM, and they've been telling me about a lot of the ideas that are being pushed forward, or at very least, the kind of structure that Amazon see for a Stargate future. Now, that structure or that plan is kind of based roughly around what they see Paramount doing with Star Trek and Disney doing with the Star Wars TV series. So what we're going to see when Stargate does return, it's almost certainly going to be 10 episodes, 2 or 3 series a year, and those series will affect each other, be intertwined with each other. As time goes by, it looks less and less likely that Brad Wright will be at the helm. So what about his promises that we're going to see a conclusion to the SGU? Well, if Amazon are really looking at Star Trek as a model for how to bring Stargate back, and that they're going to find their own Alex Kurtzman to run it, I see it not being a soft or a hard reboot, but something in between. It's going to be basically the gloop reboot. You ever see that stuff you make for kids? If you hit it, it's hard, but if you touch it slowly, it's soft. It's corn flour and water. It's the gloop reboot. And by a gloop reboot, I basically mean it's not a hard reboot, which is a complete, you forget everything happened before, you just completely start again. But it's not a soft reboot. A soft reboot is where you have new characters, a new story, but everything that happened previously still happened. Star Trek The Next Generation, for example, is a soft reboot. Battlestar Galactica, the new series, was a hard reboot. Star Trek, though, New Trek, is kind of in between. It's not really a continuation of the story because they seem to forget canon whenever they like, and they seem to just change history and change facts. We're seeing that with Strange New Worlds. We definitely saw it with Discovery. But at the same time, it's not a hard reboot because they still go back to things that did happen in the previous series. I think they'll do exactly the same with Stargate. They'll do a hybridization or a gloop reboot. By the way, if you do like the content, please consider hitting the join button and becoming a fully fledged SciTrekker. You can also go to sci-trek.com and pick marvelous merchandise. All of these little things really help the channel. Also, if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and share the video wherever the hell you want. But why would Amazon do it that way? Well, it's kind of like the problem they've got with The Lord of the Rings and the Rings of Power. They are trying to appease the hardcore fans, the people that have not just read the books once, but read the books multiple times, as well as the casual viewers. But the casual viewers outnumber the hardcore fans significantly. The bulk of the viewing figures come from people that like the show, maybe even love the show, but are not really hardcore fans. Now, they're going to have a similar issue with Stargate. There are a number of really hardcore gators out there that are desperate for the show to return. We are the ones that watch this show over and over and over again. But Amazon want to attract a whole new host of casual viewers, viewers that might fall in love with the show eventually, but never really watched SG1 before. So how do you do that? You've got to do that by creating something a bit new. So yes, new characters, but also something that is more modern, more in line with the sort of TV shows that are being made today, something that audiences today of 18, 19, 20 years old would recognize. You can't really do that by just repeating what they did before. And also, though, any new TV show, you can't just repeat what you did before anyway, because even the hardcore fans would moan about that. It would just be repetition, and who needs that? So they've got to walk a very thin line. Now, one way of doing this is to do what Star Trek did. Get a new showrunner, get new blood, new writers, new producers, new everything. Take the show in a different direction, but have little Easter eggs for the hardcore fans. Do things for the hardcore fans regularly that they'll go, oh, I remember that. Now, Star Trek does this all the time. They did it in Strange New Worlds. They did it with Discovery. That's the whole reason why we got the Enterprise in Discovery. They do it with certain episodes where they flash back to certain things that happened in the original series or the Next Generation. They bring back old characters occasionally. I could see Stargate doing exactly the same. And one easy way to do that, and one really easy way to appease a lot of hardcore fans, is to answer the SGU question. So how would I do it if I was going to do it? Well, if you are a regular SciTrekker again, you'll know that I talked about an idea to set up the series called the SGC, Stargate Command. I would do that as a hub that you would then hook lots of other TV series off. So you could have 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons of 10 episodes of different shows each year, but that they all hover in and around the SGC. So you could have a core set of characters there. For me, I would have something like Daniel Jackson as the civilian leader of that. You know, a nice way of bringing back a character we all love. Again, another hook for the hardcore fans to get them on board. But then you can actually do different stories each season. So you could have a season aboard a new BC 305. You could have a Jaffa series. You could have even flashback prequel series like The Ancients, but actually still hook it and center it around the SGC. The series starts, something in the SGC happens, and then you flash back and explain what happened with the prequel series. An obvious thing now to do, though, is if you're doing that, is to have an SGU series. So it would be 10 episodes. How would I do it? I would start it based around the SGC. They got a new power source, something that will allow them to create a wormhole and connect to the Destiny without destroying an entire planet. They do that and they find Eli. Now, for me, I would make this pretty dark and pretty gritty. I would say that at the end of the SGU, obviously, everybody was put into stasis and they had enough power then to get them to the next galaxy. They were going to be traversing the space in between, and it was going to take at least 3 years. They only had supplies for a month. The Destiny was very heavily damaged after its fight with the drones and the base ship. So, for my story, I would say that the SGU doesn't make it. That when the wormhole connects and a team goes through to the Destiny with this new power source that will allow them to get home, they find just Eli. He has just about survived. We could see flashbacks through the couple of episodes of how he survived, how he got food, how he got everything else, and then how he very slowly lost the crew. I would say that the Destiny obviously failed. It was very heavily damaged. The FTL drive damaged, and it was just floating dead in black space between the two galaxies. And the power slowly died, and the pods slowly failed. We can see Eli desperately trying to save the crew, but losing them one by one. We would then obviously, I believe, see Eli slipping into a state of basically madness. I would love to see him grappling with the mental health of the PTSD and just the depression of what this situation would cause. I think there are a lot of actual really good issues that they could tackle with that. We could also see maybe a villain or some sort of bad guy has caught up to the Destiny, and we could see flashbacks of Eli surviving those encounters. We could also see the opportunity of bringing back a few guest stars, a few from the SGU, but also don't forget, Eli did actually meet Colonel O'Neill. So we could get RDA back just for a special, because I would have imagining him like basically talking to himself and imagining all these people. So there's lots of opportunities for things like that. In this little 10 episode series, obviously by the end of it, the power source that they've brought to get home with initially won't work. They'll almost die, but probably Eli will figure out a way to make it work, and they'll get home at the nick of time. I think then we see the Destiny maybe like break up or something, or even better, maybe just floating off into the black. That would be a great way to end that series. Then, though, we'd have to decide what to do with Eli. Obviously, he'd have his demons and he'd have his ghosts. He'd have PTSD and real mental health issues to deal with, but also he'd have a new home and a new future. So, guys, get into the comments and tell me what you think. What would you like Eli to then go on to do in this imaginary new series that I've made up? Would you like him to join a team and maybe go on to have adventures in another series within the SGC? Or, remembering he's basically now an expert in ancient technology, would you actually like to see him join the SGC and be part of this hub of characters that I think all the other series could then hang off? You get into the comments, you tell me, you decide. So that's how I think they could bring the SGU back and save Eli. But if I was doing it, only save Eli. If they did this, I think they could create a little 10-episode series. It would be really exciting and a story that's really worth telling. The cynic in me says that they'd be doing it just to appease the hardcore fans. There's a real hardcore story to tell. So, get into the comments. Tell me what you think. What do we want to do with Eli now we've saved him? And do you think this idea has any merit? Do you think my theory about why they would bring SGU back holds any water? Or am I just being a cynical old fart? If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out. Also, if you enjoy the content, go and hit the join button because that really helps us out and become a fully fledged SciTrekker. As always, guys, please stay safe. I'll see you next time.